All right, so welcome to our first Lunch and Learn for the Spring 2019 session. And today's topic is involvement as experience. And we thought that it would be great to hear from a student perspective, now actually graduate and full-time employee, and talking about how the skills they gain from their involvement on campus organizations has really helped them to receive a job. And so today we have Thomas Yacarino, and he currently works in our Human Resources Department, but I'll let him give some background, and then we'll kind of go from there. So Thomas, tell us a little bit about what you were studying when you were here, and a little bit about kind of how you got the job and all that good stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So, hi, I'm Thomas, and as Kyrie said, I am a student here at Lake Sumter State College, currently in our Organizational Management Bachelor's program. I am a former president and vice president of student government, and I'm a current employee in the Lake Sumter State College Human Resources Office. And I'm here to talk about the value of getting involved in student organizations, but first I want to give you a little bit of background about me. I'm 22 years old. I currently have my associate's degree and 3 technical certificates. I have a year and a half of leadership experience, almost 2 years of experience in my field of HR, and 1 year as a full-time employee in that field. But it wasn't that long ago, I would say probably about 3 years ago, that really I struggled to find a job. No one really wanted to hire me. I probably went to 10 interviews before I found my first job as a freshman at Lake Sumter State College, and finally I got a job as a janitor, an overnight janitor at a dog kennel. So I would work from about 10 p.m. all the way till 6 a.m. in the morning, just, mopping all the floors, cleaning up after dogs, and then I would go and come to Lake Sumter to take my classes and sleep for maybe 4 or 5 hours and go back to work again at night. So that wasn't the best situation. It definitely isn't what I saw myself doing, because I personally felt like I had so much to offer elsewhere, but I just didn't have the experience to go out there and do it. Probably 6 months into that job, I was kind of struggling as my car wasn't very good. I was always having to repair it, and finally one day it just broke down and I got fired from my job as a janitor. So there I was with no transportation, no job. I was living on my own and I had to find a way to pay bills. I actually started selling my plasma in order to be able to just to feed myself, and I started looking into other options to try to get that experience I needed to get into an entry-level job in the business field. And that's when I found student government. So I guess my intentions were a little bit selfish at first. I was definitely looking just for a scholarship to stay in school, but I found out that along the way, leadership was really what I wanted to do. So I applied for SGA. I got a position as the vice president at first, and I got experience leading meetings, leading a team of 8 people as we planned events for the school. We planned, I think, six events our first semester, and then I got to lead a project to renovate the student center. And by chance, a position came available in the Human Resources Office just 6 months after joining SGA, where they wanted a student to come work in their office and do some filing and answer the phones. So the advisor for SGA at the time, she recommended me for the position, and because I had experience at that point in working well with others and public speaking, working as a part of a team, they hired me on the spot, actually.
Wow.
And I began getting experience towards my career.
Okay. Yeah. So I know that a lot of students work and take classes, so they really don't take the time or have the time to get involved. So they may not recognize really the worth of trying to make the time to get involved. So talk about maybe initially getting involved with SGA, sort of, what kept you motivated to, stay on campus even though you didn't have class, to really help plan events, and what really were the things that I guess made you feel great about that experience, that made it, I guess, worth it, instead of just leaving campus and trying to, work somewhere, or, going and do other things that you may needed to take care of. Because we have so many that just come to campus, take class, and then they leave. So what really kind of got you staying involved in SGA and staying involved on campus and staying on campus to do those events?
So I definitely connect with that, and students, time is very scarce. You have some take up to 6 classes at a time, so you want to make sure you're using all of your time wisely. But my view of it was that I was working towards something, that the things I was doing in SGA had a value to my career in the same way that my classes did. So actually, one of the things I like to point out is when I interviewed for human resources, they weren't concerned with what I learned in statistics. They didn't care whether I got an A in the class or if I got a C in the class. I got a C in the class, but that didn't matter. What was important was that I had leadership experience, that I knew how to work well with others. I had experience with project management and managing my time effectively, and that was far more valuable to them than knowing whether I got a 90 or an 85 or what have you in the unrelated coursework.
Okay. So a lot of the events and things that you help to plan with SGA, some may do those things whether it's on campus or even off campus. Sometimes people are involved with other civic clubs or their church or so forth, but they don't think to add any of that to their resume. So that's part of what we want to discuss today, is how you were able to use those skills that you gained from being involved, and how that helped on your resume to get the student position and then ultimately a full-time position. So what skills did you add to your resume as a result to being, involved? And I know you already mentioned like project management. Was that something that you were able to put on your resume that you didn't have before?
Absolutely. I had never led a team of people before.
Okay.
So that was another thing I got to add. Something I think employers are definitely looking for today is whether or not you've taken on any leadership roles, but definitely whether you've led, I would say, a team of 5 or more. That's a valuable skill to have.
So the definite teamwork, and like you said, leadership, and then planning an event. So there was a lot of project management. So what does that entail in terms of the skills that you gained just from coordinating Welcome Back Bash? So what goes into that in terms of skills that you found an employer look for?
I would say the number one skill that you get from all of that is organization. So you have to stay very organized. You have to know placement for all of the different clubs, for vendors. You have to keep in contact with your vendors and ensure that everyone knows what time to be there, and just making sure you have the resources allocated effectively. So
I'm sure there was deadlines, certain times you were trying to make sure you heard back, follow through, and then because it's a student-run organization, a lot of initiative, because this is all coming from ideas that you guys have as an organization and want to see through. So you have to take a lot of initiative. It's not like a class where you're given an assignment by the instructor and you just follow instructions. You literally are, hey, this is what we want to do, and you had to kind of figure out how to accomplish that.
Absolutely.
So that gave you a lot of great skills.
Definitely how to turn an idea into something real. And that's something that I guess I had no experience with. I've learned really quickly that there's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yes, and problem solving. People underestimate how important that is for an employer to know that as different situations arise and challenges and even just issues or problems, whether it's with the customer or just in general operations, how they need to rely on their employees to be able to solve it without, I guess, stopping work and having to wait until the boss, gives you direction, but being able to problem solve effectively and so forth. I know you also mentioned communication. And for a job in human resources, working with people, that's what they do. So that also, do you feel like that enhanced your communication, or you already were good at communication? Or how did you feel like being involved helped you with specifically like your communication skills?
So that brings up an interesting point, because one of the questions asked in my interview was, explain to me a time where you handled a difficult situation, particularly one where customers were being difficult. How did you handle that situation, and what was the outcome?
That's a common interview question.
Absolutely. And I was able to relate that to some of the experiences from leading events where maybe someone wasn't pulling their weight all the time, and I needed to go and talk to that person and let them know that we're counting on them.
Right.
So there were some times I had to do that, and I was able to share that experience during my interview. That
as an example for that question. Great. Which leads me to my next question. Were there other interview questions such as that you relied on those experiences and skill sets to help you answer those questions? Were there other similar questions that you can recall?
The main ones that related to SGA, I believe, were the one I just mentioned.
Okay. Did they ask anything from your resume, or were there other things that maybe before you wouldn't have had on your resume, but now that you were involved on campus, I guess opened up other options or anything of that nature?
I think I mentioned the major ones.
Okay.
Leading a team of 5 or more.
Okay.
Conflict resolution.
Okay.
As well as I think I added in there that I can lead effective meetings.
Okay. Yes, that is actually a separate skill. So that's great. And I know that I always encourage students to get involved, but also to then take on sort of leadership roles. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the president, although that's great. But sometimes it could just be chairing a subcommittee, right? Or, hey, I'll chair the, coordinating a particular event. So that is other ways, and that helps too. Now, I know you finished your program and were able to then apply for a permanent position that opened up in HR. And so was that something you had to interview again, or because you already were working in the office, did they kind of earmark that for you?
No.
Or talk about that process.
I definitely had to interview for that again,
Okay.
even though it was the same supervisor.
They were familiar.
They were familiar with the work
Okay.
that I did. Really, it was an interview identical to the other one. They asked the same kinds of questions, and I was able to, in the time between becoming a student assistant and a full-time assistant, when I became the president,
Gotcha.
I was able to add on some other details. I think I answered the conflict resolution question a little bit differently.
Okay.
Because by that point, I was, managing more than just events. I was managing people. So I was able to explain a case where 2 people in the group were not getting along, and I stepped in to mediate and things of that nature.
So some other sort of skill sets. Now, when it came to when you first started at Lake Sumter, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do, or did that change over the course of you being involved on campus to help you, and then of course working to then solidify kind of some ideas?
Yes, actually, when I first started at Lake Sumter, I thought I wanted to go into IT.
Okay.
And I started working towards my gen eds, and right before I started taking any elective courses is when I joined SGA.
Okay.
And because of the experiences that I had there, I started looking towards maybe I'm gonna try a management class before I go and start taking the database management courses.
Okay.
And that's when I realized, yeah, this is for me, and I changed my major that semester.
Okay. Because being involved with an organization also allowed you to go to retreats or conferences. Did you attend any of those types of opportunities?
I got to attend 2 leadership conventions for our main parent organization. It's called FSCA,
Okay.
FCS SGA, Florida College System SGA.
Okay.
And it's during these conferences, they had some courses on leadership, on effective meetings, on just stress management and conflict resolution in general.
Okay. And that's very valuable too, because a lot of employers, they value someone who's willing to learn, be a lifelong learner, and always look on ways to increase their knowledge and staying on top of the trends in the industry and just professional development as a whole. So being able to show that you attended those, that you made the time to attend and were able to receive some additional sort of development, and that is also valuable. So as we wrap up, what advice would you give to students who may either be reluctant, maybe they're more introverted and they are not as social, or maybe they feel like, well, all of them know each other, how am I gonna break in, or even just the one that says, oh, I don't know if I have the time. What kind of advice, kind of to wrap up or summarize your experience, would you give to someone in terms of why they should get involved?
Well, first thing, I think you should never be afraid that you're not going to fit in, or that they all know each other, things like that, because at a 2-year college especially, the groups are constantly changing. And a big thing in the beginning that I started doing in SGA was team building exercises. So by joining early on, you get to be a part of those team building exercises, and you start to form a tight-knit community within the different clubs.
Okay.
So joining a club is probably the number one way I can think of to make friends at the college.
Okay.
And joining just has so many benefits in terms of adding things to your resume. You get to show that you actually participated.
Really in something outside of classes.
Yeah, really in something outside of class.
That you manage your time too, because you had to make sure that you still did well in your classes and passed, but also coordinating events and everything that goes along with being involved. So absolutely. So overall, a positive experience. I will say that although we have some great student organizations on campus, sometimes students are involved already outside of campus, whether they volunteer with Habitat for Humanity or Goodwill Industries or any of those types of organizations. We just had our volunteer and part-time job fair this week. Or maybe you're doing things at church, or maybe, you have family members that were affected by a hurricane, and just sort of helping out in those efforts. And so I just wanted this opportunity to sort of remind students that those are great opportunities to put on your resume. Sometimes for you didn't have any direct human resources type experience, so you may not have direct experience working in the career field that you are wanting to pursue. However, those skills that employers look for, you can demonstrate those a lot of times through being involved on campus, because if you had not been a part of SGA, you wouldn't have had any leadership, may not have really gotten the project management, being able to actually demonstrate or showcase to an employer problem-solving ability. So a lot of things are difficult to sort of put on your resume, even if you do work, because, maybe you're a retail clerk, or maybe, you bag groceries. That's kind of hard to kind of show those skills. But being involved in an organization where you have to coordinate events and work as a team and all those things that go into it. So definitely come and see us in CDS. We can really help you look at your resume, see ways that those experiences, things that you're passionate about, how you can use that on your resume. Also, we do mock interviews. So Thomas has used, I know, HireTire. So initially, we assist. That's my first recollection of Thomas. Is I remember him helping out with some events for SGA. As well as using our HireTire for an event, as well as for interview. Was the interview for this position?
It was both for the janitor position.
Okay. So definitely, we're here to assist the students, and we are more than welcome to help you either identify ways to get involved, or even just how you would put that or word that on your resume. We also can help with interview. Thomas didn't need it, but I think because he did participate in SGA and go to conferences, he probably felt a little bit more confident going into an interview situation, but not everybody does. So we're more than welcome to help prepare you for those. So make sure you stay tuned for next month's Lunch and Learn, where we talk about what employers really want, and you actually hear directly from employers as they talk about some of those skills, and hopefully you'll get to see some of the things that Thomas, from an applicant perspective, and then you'll hear from an employer what they look for. So make sure you join us for next month. But till then, come visit us in CDS.